Day 16, Advanced Algebra 2. Today we start a new chapter or new unit in the class. This unit has a lot to do with quadratics and quadratic functions. Before we begin discussing quadratics specifically, we need to know a few things about polynomials in general. And so that's what we're going to talk about today. Basic operations on polynomials, and we define exactly what a polynomial is. First thing that we need to recognize before we even discuss what a polynomial is we need to know the parts that make up a polynomial. So a polynomial is made up of terms that are added or subtracted with one another. And a term is made up of three parts itself: a variable, a coefficient, and an exponent. Now, a variable would be a letter that represents an unknown number. So most commonly we use the letter x to represent an unknown number. However, there are other letters that can be used. N is a popular number. And sometimes we even use A, B, and C. However, truthfully, any letter could be used to represent an unknown number. Part 2 tells us that we have a coefficient that's part of a term, and a coefficient is the quantity or the number in front of the variable. So let's use x again, since that's going to be our most common variable. If I write the letter x with the number 2 written in front of it, the 2 is what we would identify as the coefficient here, and this is telling us that I have two x's in this problem. I could have a 3x, I could have a 10x, I could have negative 100x, and each of these values in front of the x is what I would call a coefficient. 2, 3, 10, and even negative 100 is a coefficient. Lastly, the third piece that can go into a term is what we call the exponent. Now, if I use my first example here, this 2x, the exponent is the counter of variable multiplication. So if I wanted this x multiplied 3 times in a row, then I would write x cubed, or x to the third power, with the exponent of 3. So we have 2x cubed, where the exponent is identified up here in the shelf. Another term might look like 3x to the 4th, or 10x to the 8th. I could also have negative 100x to the 22nd power. Doesn't really matter what those values are right now. We'll talk a little bit more specifically about what the exponents are allowed to be, but as long as we have a term consisting of both, or of all three pieces, the variable, the coefficient, and exponent, then we can add or subtract those together and list it as a polynomial. And here's a good definition to add to your notebook. You should be writing all of these down, but this one in particular is very good. A term is a collection of coefficients and variables separated by multiplication. We should also indicate that exponents exist in terms as well. So I'll just add that to the end here, along with exponents as counters of multiplication. In this next video, I'll discuss what a polynomial is and introduce some of the restrictions that we apply to polynomials.